and welcome to Silverstone, home to Britain's Formula One. We're racing this weekend on the 2.2 mile international circuit. This is the GT Cup. Although it's nearly the end of the season, the GT Cup is still growing in popularity, with new drivers competing again this weekend. I caught up with a few of them to find out what's so special about this series.
A few of my friends did it last season and told me how competitive it was. It's only my second ever race, and so just new to the series this weekend, and just thought I'd get in it and try and get some competitive racing, basically.
Because I've been doing the Fiorano track days, and they're a very good crew at Ferrari here with Fiorano, and a lot of my colleagues in the Fiorano club decided to do GT Cup, and they'd been doing it all the season, and then they suggested it might be a good idea for me to try one. And it's always been an ambition of mine to have a race and have the experience.
Cars are heading out now for race one, with Paul Hogarth taking pole from Tommy Carrera. Let's take a look at the full grid.
Thank you, Gemma. Well, Hogarth, the winner last time out in Lamborghini. He's back in his regular Porsche. Alongside him is Tommy Carrera, Nick Wales, Steve Taylor doing a great job in the Lotus Exige, Leon Price, Jeff Ledley and Ian Hartley. Further up than we've seen all season, Lejos Farga on 11th on the grid, Dom Evans, Glenn McMenamin, Pete Morris, Michael Simons, good to see him in the championship, Jay Haynes, John Taylor, Robert Koenig, David Bottrill and John Wilson. Russ Nathan, David Salway, Colin Simpson further down than we would expect, and Duncan Cameron round out our 24 cars on the grid.
So a big field of GT cars then streaming their way towards the rolling start at Woodcote, coming neatly through Luffield, Simon.
Well, we look now at the view of our poleman, Paul Hogarth. Can he get the job done? He's got a real challenge coming into the ultra-fast and very tricky right-hander here at Copse. He turns in, carrying the speed just ahead of Correa, and he gets a little bit of a swerve on there. Nick Whale is watching and trying to capitalise. Meanwhile, the rest of the pack come through. Our poleman for the Class 3, Robert Koenig, runs a little bit wide in his 993, Rob.
Paul Hogarth having to be very careful on cold tyres. We saw him run a little bit wide at the last round when he was driving the Lamborghini at Croft on cold tyres, and action in the middle of the pack there as well. These are big cars. It's a chilly day here at Silverstone today, and they're going to take 2 or 3 laps to get their Dunlop tyres up to temperature.
So the fantastic 997 RSR, one of the greatest sports endurance cars, of course, outright winner at Le Mans. That's Andrew Tate in our series here. Great to see him on board. Hogarth is controlling the race now. Correa, well, he's come on brilliantly after such a strong race last time out at Croft. Jay Haynes, meanwhile, starting to come through the pack, and that is Tate. That was that 997 RSR we were talking about. It's had a bit of a spin down at the Abbey chicane, the Abbey hairpin, rather, Rob.
Yes, could have been power related, just getting on the gas a little bit too hard on cold tyres will cause the back end of the car to slide round, but Tommy Correa keeping Paul Hogarth under pressure, and Nick Whale just has a watching brief behind there. So Porsche, Ferrari, Porsche is our top 3 at the moment as we finish our first lap.
And just behind that, the very, very impressive Stephen Taylor in the Lotus Exige. Very quick driver, really run very near to the ultimate pace. 1:27.4 in qualifying, about 1.3 seconds off the pole position of these guys. And really going to watch to see the kind of pace that he can set in the later part of the race. A bit of something hanging off the back of Wales. Got to look like the rear light cluster just come apart there, Rob.
Yeah, if a Porsche takes a whack on the rear bumper, sometimes that unsettles the rear lights, and not structural there, just cosmetic, so nothing too much to worry about.
Meanwhile, Hogarth, well, I think that win has really, really boosted him. Of course, he's been very quick all season, a win at Brands Hatch as well on the Grand Prix circuit. So clearly the great circuits are the ones that really appeal to this guy. He has also done some Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain this year as well, so certainly not been short of his racing. Look at the gap there, very, very late on the brakes from Tommy Carrera. Well, I really do think that this guy has certainly found some pace, whether it's just down to the fact that the confidence has improved, or whether it's just he's just finding a different way of driving that. Meanwhile, Colin Simpson coming through and getting a bit of a run there at Russ Nathan.
Yeah, Colin Simpson around the outside of Russ Nathan there, but Hogarth still leads as he comes into the Brooklyn section. nice and neatly through here, then into the right-hand hairpin at Luffield. That leads round into the flat-out right-hander at Woodcote and out onto the start-finish straight. And Leon Price now putting Steve Taylor in the Little Lotus under more pressure.
And it's interesting to see a driver that far up with a novice cross on the back of his car, the yellow and black cross, very distinctive. Meanwhile, Marcus Simons has a spin. Well, he's raced mainly in the Brit Car Series, just rolls off the brakes, unfortunately letting the car run into the gravel. He's been sharing with the very quick young driver, Andre de Cruz, in a lot of the series races there. Colin Broster in the very distinctive yellow car, scrapping as ever, it seems, this season with Paul Mace.
His old mate Paul Mace there, keeping him honest, right up behind, but Hogarth still leading from Correa. That gap is sort of going out and coming in, going out again, currently just over a second. Jeff Ledley there going through our picture, Ian Hartley behind, and then those two battling Porsches.
Well, there seems to be a real chunk of cars that we see regularly scrapping for action here in the GT Cup. It's certainly been a series that more and more drivers have found a real home for. It certainly suits a lot of guys that want to race at the very, very best circuits in the UK, but also want to race with guys who are in a similar vein in terms of their attitude and their aspirations racing-wise. Nick Whale, of course, a man who's racing the British touring cars, now being overtaken by the guy that we knew was going to be quick, but I think even Nick Whale wasn't expecting to see Steve Taylor come through like that.
We knew the Little Lotus would be nimble at the slow corners. We didn't expect him to get by Nick Whale at Bridge, though, one of the quicker ones, and Nick really pushing that Exige hard now.
If ever you want an example of what power to weight ratio really means, you can see it just there. You see over 400 horsepower being punched out by the fantastic Porsche 997, and considerably less, I won't say exactly how much, but considerably less for the Little Lotus Exige, but in such a lightweight chassis with such a fantastic driver behind the wheel there. Stephen Taylor is going to be a man to watch. Now, a Class 3 battle between a very familiar car of David Bottrell. We've seen David winning outright in his class, at least, in the race at Croft last time, and Robert Koenig, after that little moment at Copse on the first corner, certainly got it all together, and it looks like now Mace has got himself ahead of Broster.
Robert Koenig doing a great job there to battle for the lead of Class 3. Not so many moons ago, he was one of my pupils at the racing school. And Tommy Correa there, is he visibly closer to Paul Hogarth? Perhaps a little closer on the brakes. The 430 is terrific on the brakes. Carbo ceramic brakes giving that Ferrari great stopping capability. But going back to that man in the black Porsche, and that's Robert Koenig being chased hard by David Bottrell as always.
What a fantastic sound from the onboard camera there. Nick Whale, man who's racing British touring cars in the past. And what's that going off? That is our Lotus. I think that's Stephen Taylor. We're just saying what a great job he's doing in a very unusual place for him to go off there. I wonder what happened there. Well, meanwhile, this scrap is back on again. Mace is not giving up. He's coming back at his mate, Colin Broster. The two of them absolutely at it side by side. Really spectacular stuff, and no holds barred at all there. It does look like Mace has just about got the edge, and I wonder if he's got his got the dander up of Colin Broster. Meanwhile, let's look for that braking differential once again. Hogarth in deep, relatively early on the brakes, but a bit too brave from Tommy Correa, I think, that time.
Yes, he was the last of the late breakers there and just ran a little bit wide. Now, I think Steve Taylor parked that Exige on the outside of Luffield. I'm not convinced he's crashed out there. I think he may have had an engine problem and quickly pulled off the road. So, unusual place for the little Exige to go off, as you were saying at Luffield just a lap or so ago.
Meanwhile, the 26 car there of Jay Haynes, we see going through the shot there, and he's certainly got a good level of momentum working as they come out of the island chicane onto the brakes down into this very, very difficult section here at the end of the lap. And it does look like Haynes has run a little bit wide that time, Rob. Oh, almost sweeping into each other.
Duncan Cameron round the outside then of Jay Haynes. We saw 3 Ferrari 360s in one shot, and there we have 4 different makes of Porsche in one shot.
Yeah, Dom Evans in the series here, getting a little bit edged out there, getting bullied a little bit there. I think that's the 43 car there coming through the shot there. That's Dom getting himself into a position of trying to stay out of trouble, I think, more than this. Meanwhile, Cameron and Haynes, that scrap continues. Cars look very, very similar, and there's not a lot to choose from in terms of the way that they're being driven performance-wise, Rob.
Will be very, very neat and tidy through this section. Come out of Luffield cleanly, pick the power up early, use all the curb on the outside, then carry as much speed as you can through Woodcote.
but it is looking likely that Paul Hogarth, he's jumped from Porsche to Lamborghini and back into Porsche, but ultimately the result is going to be the same. A winner last time out at Croft and a winner here at Silverstone on the international circuit for Paul Hogarth. Fantastic drive yet again for Hogarth, drives away from our second place man, Tommy Correa. Once again, Correa impressing, certainly getting faster and faster as the year has progressed. Hogarth wins by 3.6 seconds and then ahead of Nick Whale. Great run by Jeff Ledley and Leon Price. Hartley Mace, Dom Evans, good run from him. And Andrew Tate runs out the top 10 in that 997 RSR. Hogarth from Correa and Whale in Class 1. Paul Mace, Dom Evans and Glenn McMenamin in Class 2. Class 3 was Robert Koenig, just holding off David Bottrell and Russ Nathan.
Rob, looking rather hot and tired. How was that?
That was strenuous. That was a long 25 minutes, I have to tell you, yeah.
And it wasn't easy for you either, was it?
No, it wasn't. David gave a very hard fight until the last end. In fact, he even overtook me. So it was a hell of a battle.
Paul, you've got to be happy with that.
I have, yeah. It was a very good race. Had a good race with Colin. And then Mark Coley, near the end of the race, so I eased off a bit, I think, because of the big gap. And then I saw him coming, and I thought I'd better step up a bit, and which I did. And but it got very close near the end. We caught some back markers, and it could have gone either way, actually. And I went one way, he went the other way, and just lucky to stay in front of him, really, because the back markers, it got us together because I couldn't go past them. There's two of them dicing, and it allowed him to catch up. And but I got in front and just kept it to the end.
You made that look so easy.
Do you know, I really enjoyed that, but it was nice and straightforward. Once I just got a bit of a gap, I could monitor it and kept pushing a little bit just to keep seeing that gap, get the comfort bit, because you never know when you come up behind back markers what might happen. Gives you that little bit of luxury just to take it easy going past them and not having to risk too much. So very good, very pleased.
Well, Paul made that look very easy. Join us after the break where we see how he gets on in race 2. Welcome back to Silverstone. We're just in time for race 2. The drivers are ready and are about to head out onto the circuit to take their grid positions. Paul Hogarth takes pole once again, but he's assured me it's not as easy as it looked.
Well, this race definitely not going to be that easy because of the situation with ballast, Rob Bath.
Yes, Paul Hogarth now carrying 60 kilos of ballast on his Porsche for winning the last race. Tommy Correa lines up with 40 kilos for taking second, and the third place car will line up with an additional 20 kilos.
That's how they start. Price, Ledley, Mace, Hartley, McMenamin, Tate and Vacher are going to round out our top 10. Further down the grid, Pete Morris, Mark Coling, Michael Simons, Jay Haynes, John Taylor, John Wilson, Robert Koenig, David Bottrell, Russ Nathan and Colin Simpson in the very distinctive Marcos Mantis. And 21st and 22nd, David Salway and Duncan Cameron. Again, looking at the view of our poleman, our first two drivers on the grid, Hogarth and Correa, trying to get a good neat run as they come down towards Copse Corner. Meanwhile, it looks like Nick Whale has moved across to the right very, very early, not got enough momentum. It does look like Hogarth, he had a big moment going through there on the first lap in the first race this afternoon, but seems to have kept it all under control. There's a wonderful mixture of Porsches and Ferraris with the odd BMW and TVR amongst others in there to spice things up. Whale, though, has got himself up into second position, Rob.
So here we have Hogarth lead, Whale second, Correa third, Jeff Ledley fourth and Paul Mason fifth as the field streams through the Island S's, down the back straight and into the Abbey hairpin. Are we going to see Whale challenge? Where's Tommy Correa going to come from? Ooh, contact there between P2 and P3, Si.
Yeah, I wonder if that was just a matter that he was so much later on the brakes, pulled himself out almost, as we look at Jay Haynes looking at the back of Michael Simons' very distinctive BMW. He had a spinner on. Meanwhile, the TVR TVR Cerberus, you know all about those, Rob. You've raced the GT versions of those.
Yes, a couple of years experience in the old Cerberus. Experience too in these Porsches, and they are leading 997s P1, P2. Nick Whale down the inside of Hogarth for the lead.
Well, he does seem to take quite a late turn into a couple of the corners, does Paul Hogarth. It seems to be his way of being able to maximise traction and power going out of the tight corners, and looks like Whale has got a little... The car that's working a little bit better at this stage of the race. Now, obviously, with these powerful rear-wheel drive cars, it is quite a balance for the team to set up the car in terms of tyre pressure. Sometimes they'll get higher tyre pressures at the beginning so they can get the car working well. Sometimes maybe keeping it a little bit lower so that the car comes on towards the latter part of this 25-minute race, and certainly looks like Wales' car's working the better at the moment.
It is definitely working better. If they go too high to begin with, the car will have great performance over the opening laps, but will be no good towards the end of the race. So real strategy, seeing how the different strategies unwind over the course of the 25 minutes.
Does look though like Hogarth now seems to have got himself into a bit of a rhythm once he's broken that initial pressure. In fact, we saw this with him at Croft in the Lamborghini, when the first couple of laps he was under big pressure from Tommy Correa. Had a couple of moments, in fact Correa was ahead for a while, and certainly seems to have not bothered him now. He seems to have got his head down. Correa though looks like the man on the mission. Meanwhile, Robert Koenig and David Bottrell, two very, very different Porsches, an absolute yuppie's dream from the 80s, Rob.
Yes, a blast from the past they might be, but they're absolutely at it for Class 3 honours. At it too is Tommy Correa down the inside of Nick Whale. Ferrari a little bit light, a little bit later on the brakes, and he's made it count, I think. Can he hold it at Luffield? Yes, he can. So Correa up to P2, Nick Whale down to P3.
I'd say Tommy Correa certainly at this stage of the season is the most improved driver in terms of consistently being in amongst the fights. Obviously the car is superb and is working very, very well, but really Correa and Hogarth at this stage are the class of the field. Nick Whale really had no answer for that. He certainly didn't see it coming, takes in a little bit too much of the apex curb there at Copse, Rob.
Yes, if we think back to all the way to one of the first races in this series, all the way back to Anglesey, Nick Whale really was the class of the field, and now we see these guys like Jeff Ledley, like Tommy Correa there in the very distinctive zebra stripe 430. They're battling right with him, so yeah, huge improvement from those guys over the course of the year. Oh, Correa so late on the brakes again, Simon.
Well, the thing he seems to be doing there is he's proving obviously how good he is and the car is on the brakes, but certainly he can't magic a gap there, can he? Meanwhile, Duncan Cameron under a bit of pressure from Michael Simon. Simon's looking like he's on top of the car for this race, and certainly the two of them have edged their way a little bit closer to the scrap or to the car just ahead.
Yes, they're making their way through Bridge Corner now, coming up into Priory. Fast left-hander, that leads into the slower left-hander at Brooklands, the famous stadium section here at the British Grand Prix circuit, Silverstone.
Well, certainly one of the most demanded ends to a lap that you'll find anywhere on any circuit in the UK. Really, in some respects, actually, Croft had a sort of a similar, like 1, 2, 3 section swinging together, but nowhere near as quick. Meanwhile, the familiar number 9 car of Pete Morris, a man, a real stalwart, a man that's been involved, always a real heavyweight in this class.
Yes, Pete Morris there, right in the thick of the action. Here we see 3 Porsche 911s nose to tail. Glenn McMenamin, Lehos Varga and Pete Morris there in that little trio. There we see the TVR moving up a place as well, making a move down the inside of Jay Haynes at Copse. Good clean stuff there.
Yeah, Rob, John Wilson really gets it done, but seemed to pull the car across to defend very, very early. Asked a lot of the rear tyres of that server, and certainly not an easy car to drive. Certainly a different way of going about achieving the same objective in terms of the performance. Morris there starting to put more and more pressure on Varga. Varga certainly dealing with that pressure very, very well. Pete Morris not quite where we normally see him, scrapping normally with guys like Paul Mace and Colin Broster, but not quite amongst that this weekend.
Still in the thick of the action though. He's always there or thereabouts. I remember from the last race at Croft, we had just 15 minutes of Pete Morris television, and here we are again. He's always in a bun fight somewhere.
Yeah, a real top-line driver is Pete, and the PMC company obviously heavily involved in not just his car but also in the championship, and it's great to see the name becoming more and more well-known in terms of everybody seeing it running on TV regularly. Simons though, and Cameron having a little bit of a wobble there. Simons meanwhile trying to go around the outside. Well, Andre de Cruz, his co-driver and driver coach, will be very pleased to see him trying to put more and more pressure on a guy like Cameron.
Great looking car, the BMW GTR, and a massive amount of mechanical grip. You see the big wheel arch extensions, the car very wide track, lots and lots of grip. They're the very distinctive Rex Safari colour scheme of Tommy Correa, zebra stripes at the front and cheetah spots at the back.
Well, whatever animal it is, it's certainly it's the prancing horse is the one that's doing all the work at the moment, trying to put more pressure on that race leader, our man Paul Hogarth, who seems to be genuinely getting it done. David Salway, fairly new to this kind of competition, certainly finding his feet and being very, very vigilant as our race leader comes past.
Good driving there from David Salway. Actually his first ever race this weekend and doing a great job looking in his mirrors as the quicker cars come through. Jeff Ledley there, big improvement from him over the season. I can't believe he's competing with Nick Wales, such a seasoned veteran.
Well, again, it just shows you where GT Cup is great, because it has this wonderful mixture of guys like Hogarth and Proster and Mace and Whale and Morris have all been around motorsport. Oh, that is Paul Hogarth's car with a wheel off. What an incredible turn of events for our race leader and our race one winner. And surely, surely, surely this looks like Tommy Correa has had the race just gifted to him, Rob.
I'm still in shock. I can't believe what I've just seen. Yeah, Paul Hogarth coming round the fast left at Maggots and into Beckett's, lost his right rear wheel and slid off into the gravel. And like you say, Correa has been handed the lead of the race on a plate, and I can't believe it.
Incredible stuff, and well, that's the first time I think I've ever seen that kind of an issue for a Porsche. Most uncharacteristic for the car. The Class 2 battle, meanwhile, starts to unfold with Paul Mace there under pressure. Jay Haynes now starting to come back at John Wilson, who, and looks like, is that slow moving? I think it is a very slow moving Michael Simons, and that's a real shame for the BMW driver.
Yes, great shame from the BMW there. Oh, and a big slide there from Wilson's TVR as well, but great shame to see the BMW slowing down on the back straight.
And meanwhile, though, Mace now under a little bit more pressure from the 82 car of Glenn McMenamin. He's certainly driven a great job. We have a red flag, and I think that could be because of the end result of Paul Hogarth. And what a tremendous day's racing this is going to be for Tommy Correa. We said he's a greatly improved driver. What a result. He wins by 4.3 seconds from Whale. Ledley, brilliant for him as well. Hartley, Price, Mace, McMenamin, Barker, Morris and Andrew Tate once again rounds out the top 10. Class 1, Tommy Correa wins from Nick Whale and Jeff Ledley. Class 2, Paul Mace from Glenn McMenamin and Pete Morris. And our Class 3 victor is David Bottrell from Robert Koenig and Russ Nathan.
It's Tommy Correa!
So a tremendous result for Fiorano Ferrari, Tommy Correa, Jeff Ledley, Ian Hartley and Leon Price, Anthony Cheshire and his boys doing a brilliant job to get an outstanding result.
Dave, another class win for you. Did you enjoy that one?
That was quite enjoyable. Yeah. The car was really good, and just as soon as I got past Robert, the car was just flying, and I just thought I'll just treat this like a test session and just go quicker and quicker and quicker and see how quick I can get. So I'm looking forward to seeing the lap times.
Paul, another podium finish, another class win.
Yeah, very good. I'm very pleased with myself, and last race to go, so I hope I can do a double, as it were, next meeting. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Excellent, very well done, thank you.
you.
So Tommy, you've got to be happy with that first win for the Ferraris.
Yeah, absolutely, outright win, not like at Croft where we kind of won the class but didn't win the race. So it was great, it really was good. I have to say, just before Paul went off, I held up a little bit, so I was just a bit cheesed off, and then I thought, that's a prison, that's like karma, everything goes around, comes around, so it was good, it really was good, it felt good.
And certainly the changes on the car are working, aren't they?
I'd say so, but I think the basic car, as I said to you last time, the setup is really the key to it. It's so well balanced, but the guys do such a great job. Yes, the kit helps, but it's a lot is to do with the guys when you do the setup of the car. So it's not just driving; it's a good car.
Yeah, good car, good driver, good team, eh?
I would hope so. I don't know about good driver, but lucky driver, I'd say. Yeah.
A disappointing end to the day for Paul Hogarth, but a fantastic result for Ferrari, taking their first all-out win. That's it from us today here at Silverstone. Join us for the last round of the season at Brands Hatch.